Hey guys, thanks for stopping by for another video here at alliseeisW, where we talk about stocks, Bitcoin, and finance. In today's video, I'd like to deep dive into the price of Bitcoin. We'll cover the latest updates all around the world right now. We'll also talk about strategy, MSTR, what my price predictions are. And just recently, we got news coming out fresh off the press on Sunday. This is all before the events leading up to the event at the White House with the crypto event, very first crypto event that's going to be held by Trump and Tsar David Sachs. This is going to be very exciting. I mean, just with the inauguration, it's been, less than 100 days, but now the people, Bitcoin investors, traders, we're demanding for more updates. I mean, lately we've been just hearing a lot about tariffs, market uncertainty, economic weakening. But I think now things are just going to flip around where we're going to see bullish sentiment, consumer confidence really kick in. We're going to start seeing more inflows in the Bitcoin investments as well as Bitcoin ETFs as well. So now if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing. We'll be covering the latest updates using technical analysis. Thank you guys. What we're seeing here is just the overall updates with Bitcoin. Just today, Bitcoin is going on a run right now. I mean, we saw that support line of like 77,000 here. That was what took place not too long ago. And now what happened? We're beginning to see that V-shape kick back in. We saw that RSI down below 20. I mean, it was like the lowest RSI throughout the recent time frame here. We have the moving average divergence here, MACD, where the MACD, we're about to see the blue line break through the orange line, which is a key indicator from a long-term perspective here. And when you look at it from a near-term perspective on the daily chart, the 1 hour daily chart, you're seeing RSI pick up here. You're also seeing volume inflows coming in. I think consumer confidence is really kicking in here. You see the MACD line breaking through the golden line here, which is a key technical indicator that we want to see, which really shows a bullish signal. And I think this is all based on sentiment here, based on the news that we're getting from Donald Trump. And there's anticipation that come March 7th with the event at the White House, that's really going to allow more consumers gain more information on where we're headed with the crypto strategic plan for the United States. We hear a lot about strategic Bitcoin reserve, and we hear a lot about US sovereign wealth fund. But I think that post this event, we're going to see a lot more updates here, but really good signal just based on the volume that's picking up here. Consumer confidence is beginning to kick in. Fear factor is, stabilizing a little bit post today. And just with the MACD, we're seeing bullish signals as well as the RSI kind of switch gears here. Let's take a look at the technicals on strategy. So we're mostly excited with where MSTR is going to be headed in the following week here. And just with the positive news, the market sentiment on Bitcoins, with the technicals that we just saw, with RSI picking up, the MACD picking up, we're breaking through that Ichimoku cloud. Now, looking at MSTR, I think that what we're seeing just with the recent events, we're seeing a bullish pennant flag here. So MSTR has been just hovering post that 550 top off back in November. It's in this, this channel here, consolidating, hitting lower lows here, but that is just going to prime the price for MSTR to really have a bounce back, especially given the fact that we're in this bullish pennant flag here where we see a lower support levels. And, I could very well see March be a bounce back, a V-shape month where February was just a big downturn here, just with the start of February, where it was just hovering, recently, 400 range dropping down to like the low 200 range. But I think that with February, the probability of occurrence for it to bounce back into the 300, 400, wouldn't be surprised for it to bounce back into the 500 because when this thing runs, baby, this thing runs very quickly. You're looking at the RSI, very low numbers here. We haven't seen an RSI level this low here but I think that overall, we're beginning to see RSI pick up. Volume is beginning to pick up. Starting, I'm sure, tomorrow, when the market opens, we're going to see an increase in inflows with volume. And good sign here is the MACD. We're seeing that blue line just break through here. So I think what we're seeing here, key indicator just based on technicals here, is that we're going to see a reverse bullish pattern here with the MACD showing positive signs. Ichimoku cloud, starting tomorrow, we're going to see that breakthrough. It's going to hover above the clouds, float above that, magnetic pull down. RSI is beginning to pick up. So I think we're headed in the right direction, especially with price of Bitcoin, now at $94,000. It's good to see volatility retracement with Bitcoin because now that's going to allow for Bitcoin to step up. As soon as Bitcoin gaps up to like 130 in the month of March, we could very well see MSTR breakthrough reach its prior resistance in March, April timeframe, and then we start stepping up, in parallel with Bitcoin. Tom Lee, which we will be covering, I would recommend watching through the end of the video clip. But, Tom Lee even forecasted that in 2025, with this Bitcoin bull cycle, we could very well see Bitcoin price top off, getting into that 200K. So imagine Bitcoin getting to 200K this year. What will the price of MSTR be? Can it go above, $1,200? It's very possible. We know how fast this thing can kick into gears and just, run up very quickly, especially with this recent downturn here. Let's look at Michael Saylor's posting. So today, Bitcoin is the foundation of the crypto economy. So Trump announced some huge news here. A U.S. crypto reserve will elevate this critical industry after years of corrupt attacks by the Biden administration, which is why my executive order on digital assets directed the Presidential Working Group to move forward on a crypto strategic reserve that includes XRP, Ripple, Solana, and Cardano. ADA. I will make sure the US is the crypto capital of the world. We are making America great again. And obviously, Bitcoin and Ethereum, as other valuable cryptocurrencies, will be at the heart of the reserve. I also love Bitcoin and Ethereum. There you go. We got the President Donald Trump being a pro crypto advocate here as a leader of the country. We can't be more bullish than this here. And on top of that, the cherry on the ice cake here, David Sachs, President Trump will host the first White House crypto summit on Friday, March 7, and attendees will include prominent founders, CEOs, and investors from the crypto industry. Look forward to seeing everyone there. So you see here with this announcement, the White House announced today that President Trump will host and deliver remarks at the first ever White House crypto summit, coming up very soon here, March 7th. Attendees will include prominent founders, CEOs, and investors from the crypto industry, as well as members of the President's Working Group on Digital Assets. The summit will be chaired by the White House AI and crypto SARS David Sachs and administered by the working group's executive director, Bo Hines. So much positive upside here. It's really going to benefit the North American hedge crypto companies like, Strategy, even the Bitcoin miners I've been talking about as well, with the miners, positioning itself in Bitcoin mining as well as AI potential. Adam Livingston's post. Let's go through this. MSTR will surpass nations in economic power. Strategy doesn't rely on governments. Most people still think MSTR is just another corporation. They couldn't be more wrong. MSTR is a rising economic force, one that will eventually wield more financial influence than entire nation states. A Bitcoin powered corporation will have more leverage than a fiat backed nation. The transformation is already underway. Governments print currency, strategy stacks Bitcoin. Every government funds itself through inflation and then taxation. They print their own money, they force citizens to use it. They devalue it to maintain power, but there's a fatal flaw in the system. Fiat is falling, and when fiat collapses, so will the governments that depend on it. Strategy isn't playing their game. It doesn't need to print money. It doesn't need to tax citizens. It doesn't need to manipulate markets to survive. MSTR operates on one simple principle: buy up Bitcoin, the hardest money ever created, and no one does it more aggressively or efficiency. It doesn't run on debt, politics, or deception. It runs on thermodynamic monetary truth that makes it more powerful than any fiat-based government. MSTR is evolving into a corporate state. Today's strategy is a corporation, but in the future, it will function as a sovereign financial entity, one that owes nothing to any government. Why? Because Bitcoin isn't just another asset. It is the apex of economic power. Bitcoin-backed corporate bonds will outclass fiat bonds. Strategies reserves will be harder than those of central banks. Governments will have no choice but to seek liquidity from strategy when fiat falls. At some point, nations will be desperate for capital, and when that moment arrives, they won't turn to the IMF, they'll turn to strategy. That is the inevitable outcome. Nation states are already losing. Governments still scoff at Bitcoin. They dismiss it, they restrict it, they tax it, ban it, and attack it. But behind closed doors, they are starting to accumulate. Here's the problem: strategy is years ahead. Strategy stacks Bitcoin while governments print fiat. Strategy is pacing every nation in Bitcoin acquisition. By the time they grasp what's happening, it will be too late. The future will belong to those who saw it first. MSTR won't need permission from governments. Governments will need permission from strategy. MSTR will set the rules for fiat nations. A day will come when strategy will have the power to provide Bitcoin-backed liquidity to entire countries. When that happens, governments will be forced to issue Bitcoin-denominated bonds. Governments will have to align with the Bitcoin standard. Governments will realize they have no leverage over strategy. Strategy is a forced corporate state, the corporate states that will outlast fiat states. The final evolution, corporate states replacing nation states. Bitcoin is rewriting the financial order by shifting power away from governments. In the fiat age, governments controlled money, governments controlled corporations, government dictated economic rules. In the Bitcoin age, Bitcoin-backed companies will outperform fiat-backed governments. Entities will like strategy, will surpass entire nations in financial power. Governments won't control corporations. Corporations will control governments. We are witnessing the rise of a new global financial structure, one where Bitcoin-based corporate entities become the dominant economic forces. Strategy is the ultimate financial fortress of the 21st century. Very bullish, very compelling comment here, analysis from Adam. Let that sink in. And with that, I will turn it over to Tom Lee for a quick update.
MicroStrategy, around 5 years ago, transformed the company by using its balance sheet. They had a lot of cash on hand to buy Bitcoin. And so instead of the stock being valued on its actual software business, which had been languishing, it's valued as a holder of Bitcoin. But as Bitcoin has risen and MicroStrategy stock has gone up, it's created an opportunity for them to issue convertible bonds and debt to acquire more Bitcoin. Now, you might think that this is a little bit reckless, but it turns out it's a very novel strategy because they have created a lot of network value. They're one of the largest holders of Bitcoin now, and ultimately they may become the second largest holder of Bitcoin after the US government. And they're doing this with the ability to borrow at very low cost. You might wonder, why are bondholders buying these bonds? They're offering for the first time the ability for someone to put $1 billion work in the bond world to own a bond that has exposure to Bitcoin. MicroStrategy.
There you have it. You heard it from Tom Lee, the analyst who is forecasting Bitcoin going up to 200,000 in the year 2025. We are not bullish enough. Imagine what the price of MSTR will be towards that time frame in the year 2025. Now, you think about MSTR based on what Tom Lee has said, eventually the government's going to rely on strategy with the amount of Bitcoin they have on their balance sheet. They've been buying for many years now. So I think they're ahead of the game. And for those reasons, they're dematerializing the government right now. And eventually the government will depend on corporations. So think about what the Mag 7s did, like with what Amazon did. They dematerialized the storefronts. What about Apple? What about Google? Google dematerialized all of the search engines, as well as Meta, Facebook dematerializing social media. Similar story here. MSTR will dematerialize the way we look at traditional finance, and at one point, governments will depend on corporations, similar to what Strategy is doing. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, if you're new to this channel or if you've been watching, I would first off really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing, share this with, your network. Thank you guys. Leave a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. And I really appreciate you guys stopping by here. Thank you. Have a great Sunday.